The Guns on Pegs podcast is brought to you by ITAP Group.
Hello, and welcome back to the Guns on Pegs podcast. I am George Brown. His name is Chris Horn. Chris, how are you feeling today?
This is the second year in a row that we've recorded a podcast straight after the Game Awards.
Yeah.
I've felt better.
Well, I mean, the good news is I feel fantastic because I was not fucking invited this year. I don't know why. Maybe I did something wrong last time round.
You know where to send your complaint to, don't you?
Yes, Digby.
Exactly that. So if you feel sorry for George, you can also email Digby.
We might have to remove his email address.
Whoops.
But did you have a fun time?
It was really good, thank you. Always is. It's a nice gathering for a good cause. You know, what's not to love, really?
Yeah, and I think a friend of the podcast was successful.
For the second year in a row, Kai at Bryn, Game and Flames, who's been on the pod before, won the award last year and won Best Game Influencer again this year. So massive congratulations to him. Obviously does a huge amount for pushing game online, as our guest today knows very well. So really well done to him. Good to see him. He rocked up on stage when Digby gave him the big check with a big old cowboy hat on, looking particularly confident in himself.
And I just want to give a shout out to Hugo, aka the Game Glutton, who's another friend of the podcast who was nominated for that award but didn't make it to the finals. But sounds like it was a fun evening from what I've heard so far.
Yeah, always is. And Adam Henson did the comparing, awarding the prizes, did a mega job, always does that really well. And absolutely, he's mad passionate for it as well. So he's a great person to do it. So yeah, good fun. GOP table with some clients and stuff. Yeah, last train home, classic.
You did well. I think I didn't make it onto the last train home last year.
That's very you, George. If you were on my train line, you'd end up in Dover regularly, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I think the furthest I've got is Southampton on the last train, which is about 20 miles south of where I live.
That's nowhere near as bad as Dover.
No. But it has happened more than once.
Good. Well, today I should introduce our guest. Can
I just tell you, I mean, it's on theme, so I just want to tell you about, since, you guys are having fun, I've had a bit of a calamity.
Go on.
And once we've introduced our guest, I want to ask him about it. Our deep freeze tripped out, and all of this season's remaining game has been consigned to the bin.
How long was it out for?
Unclear. It was discovered this morning. And we don't know how long it's been out for, because it's in one of the outbuildings.
Yes. Do you remember this happened to me during 2021?
Yeah.
And I noticed it, we think 5 days later, and the stuff right in the middle might have been okay, but it's impossible to say. And
I'm very sad because there was quite a lot there. The good news is I've hedged, but this is a top tip. Hedge your bets. Do not put all of your game in one freezer. I'm pleased to say that mine is spread across 3 different freezers, and it's only the big freezer that went out. So I've still got lots of packets of pheasant and partridge breast. I've got a huge bag of venison trim.
It's quite fancy to have 3 freezers, by the way.
Well,
it's also very expensive. Running a freezer per year is about 85, 90 quid.
Well, so I've got one sort of fridge freezer. Then we have a sort of communal family chest freezer. That's the one that's conked out, or that tripped out. And then I also have another smaller freezer in the house. But, we've got a lot of stuff to freeze. So you need to run the freezers. And also it's turned out that I'm now not sold game for the next 9 months or whatever it is. So it's paid off.
We first question then for our guest in a second is about his risk approach towards how long he sees okay for a freezer to be off before eating his food.
Yeah. Well, you better introduce him then. Go on.
Today's guest is an absolute hero. He's been mentioned on the pod quite a few times, actually, for very good reason. And it's particularly appropriate that it's the night after the Eat Game Awards that he's with us. He's a chef, first and foremost, a food writer. He is culinary director at Eat Wild, which is the sort of marketing board for game meat. They're the customer facing side outside of our industry, the people that are talking to the people that should be eating meat, game meat. You might know him from his Instagram page where he does lots of exciting stuff, and he's still got his handle Blackshire Man from when he was tiny. So you can check him out there. But if you've been to the Game Fair or any Shooting World events over the last few years, it's very likely that you've eaten his food. And you've also probably seen his recipes across Shooting Times and other places. So please put down your spatula, step away from the mixing bowl and put your hands together for Leon Challis-Davies.
Thank you very much. What an introduction. It's incredible. Thank you.
For the number of times that you've held back a canapé or two for me at an event or something, I think you deserve it, don't you?
There was some serious smoke and I liked it.
I think I remember once turning up to an event at the Game Fair late, and I swear that you held back some sort of burger for me.
Yeah, I did.
And I was absolutely starving. Hadn't eaten since like 9 a.m. I was like, "You absolute hero!" So yes, thank you.
I popped down last year as well with the pheasant sausage and venison bacon and egg sangers as well. Remember?
Yes.
Who missed out? Someone missed out.
Me,
Was that you,
I
George?
missed out.
Yeah. He's missed out on the Eat Game Awards. He's missed out on breakfast. Sorry.
I forgot about that. Yes, you did. Were you recording a podcast, George, or something at the time? And we just ate in
I
front
was
of you?
recording those little things with some of the Scribeham writers, and I think I sent Imi with a message to say, please provide breakfast, and it never quite materialized. But you know, I survived.
Breakfast was there. It arrived. You just missed out.
There just wasn't enough for you. You weren't quick enough. Hey, talking of this, George, we've got to get on to some of the tidbits that Leon has been warming us up for the Game Fair for this summer.
Yeah, well, that's it. If that's on the agenda. But first of all, if you've been in my position, how long after the freezer has switched off?
So did you feel the temperature of the meat inside?
No, I didn't. I was uninvolved.
The smell?
The smell was not great.
Okay, so all freezers absolutely honk after defrosting in a horrible way for a period of time. But it's just, I mean, I'm the type of guy I'd probably just shut the door. It'll be all right. No, definitely not after 5 days, Chris. But no, though, yeah, you got to bin and start again. And yeah, unfortunately, but you're very lucky apparently with all those freezers.
Yeah, wasn't there a Game Fair when BGA had a freezer incident?
Yes.
Oh, and the trailer.
The trailer. Yes, you're absolutely right. We hired this trailer to keep all of our stock in for the weekend. I was going on stage to make I can't remember what was I making, maybe burgers. Like I had a whole pheasant to break down and then turn into burgers, and I had loads of pork fat, and anyway, it was an amazing recipe. But yeah, and then we turned up in the morning. So I was on stage on the Saturday. We did the Friday, no dramas. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. I've turned up, and everything in the fridge was frozen because they'd set it to the wrong temperature, and it dropped to -21, I think.
Wow.
And it had all the beers. It had all the beers in there, so they were all done, all frozen. I remember the first thing that Louisa and I just looked at each other, and we were both dragging out Henry Weston bottles and getting all the bottles out, because they expand, explode, but loads hadn't. So we were just pulling them out, resting them on the grass gently, praying to the beer gods that none of them would pop whilst they thawed out quite nicely for later, which they did, I may add.
Don't they lose all their fizz once they've been frozen?
Yeah, I'd probably say they would. I don't know. I've never frozen a beer.
It's when you open them up when they're still a bit too frozen, and it comes out like a slush puppy. It's horrendous, and it never tastes any good.
Yeah, you guys know more than me. Or you remember more than me.
Well, I remember that I profited from it, because at the end of the weekend, Louisa was like, well, all this stuff has to go. So I guess I can't feel too bad about my freezer situation because I definitely
Yes.
profited from that. I was eating game for about a week afterwards.
Because it was all fresh, wasn't it? And then it had been
Yeah.
frozen, so it was fine. So as long as you took it back and ate it that week, you'd have been all right.
Exactly. I think I seem to remember that one of our Guns on Pegs colleagues, Frank, had a cool bag full of this stuff, and that someone half-inched it.
And they ran off with his whole Yeti box, one of the
Yeah.
less desirables.
And I think it was full of
Right.
sort of venison fillet or something.
Yeah, from the game fair. I know it was literally behind the back of our stand in the VIP area.
Well, should we have a drink? I don't know if you guys are up to it. Are you guys up to it?
I swear I drank tea at this episode last year, and I've just finished my cup of Earl Grey.
And so now you've got...
Oh, go on then. That's very well linked.
I know.
Do you know what I found? I found from last year, Eat Game Awards Slow Port, and I
Oh,
thought,
wow.
"Ooh, how apt." I hadn't drunk it. It was one of these little sort of miniatures. It's not that small, actually. So yeah, I'm going to have a sip of this. See if it's any good.
Very nice.
Oh, wow. Wasn't ready for that. That's actually really enjoyable. Just maybe another day.
That was hugely enjoyable. Leon, how about you? What have you got?
So I was going to make it famous. I'm very gutted. I, as Chris as well, was at the Game Awards and could tell by my voice, I had a few sherbets. And as a lot of you know, for the first 3 months of the year, I don't drink. Well, 3 months normally.
First 2 months and 21 days, you mean?
Yeah, it is 2 months until now. I did have a drink at Cheltenham the other week, but we won't go into that. But yes,
So hold on. For the first 3 months of the year, you drink less than normal, is what you meant.
No, I don't drink at all in January or February.
Apart from Cheltenham
But
and
March
Game
had
Awards.
too much excitement going on. I can't not have a drink. So-
and a couple of shoot days in January. So is it just the first week of February that you have a quiet one?
I don't drink. I do not drink. You can't. No alcohol passes these lips. And then so today, this is probably my favorite drink that I make at Christmas. And when people come over, so I have a bit of a party on Christmas Eve. It's all normally the family and the in-laws, and everyone comes over, and I make these for my sister-in-law, who absolutely loves them and gets her tanked pretty quickly. And it's called a flirtini. However, today's got a twist because I've got no cranberry juice. I had orange juice, but it's a shot of Chambord, a shot of Russian standard vodka, a shot of Stoli raspberry vodka, a shot of cranberry juice, 2 squeezed limes, shaken over ice, and then poured into a martini glass. And it is absolutely bomb-proof.
That sounds amazing.
But don't start drinking that just before you've had a heavy session or after a heavy session. I'm not feeling the love at the moment.
That's a lot of ingredients. I kind of my taste buds didn't keep up with my brain whilst you were describing it. But so I was struggling to picture what taste you were going to experience just then. But it sounded lovely.
It's amazing. It genuinely is absolutely stunning. You should try it. Happy to send you the recipe.
So,
But it's
Chambord is the one in the sort of
Little round
little round bottle with the sort of gold strapping and what have you on
Yeah.
it, isn't it? Now, remind me, is it mulberry?
yes, and everyone has one in their cupboard. I'm pretty sure you both have. Somewhere at the back of the cupboard, there'll be a bottle. And that's what you do with it.
Lose it in something else.
Lose it in something else.
So George, what are you drinking?
Well, it's been quite warm and sunny here today. So my initial plan of having a sort of punchy red wine has gone out the window, and I have gone for a podcast favourite, a supermarket lager.
This means you're definitely winning the supermarket lager race now. Having initially taken that title wrongly, you have now got that title, okay?
Yeah, fair enough. So this one is San Miguel from a can, but a big enough can that it was a pint. It's now about half a pint. But it's actually quite nice to have a full pint at home, which isn't
I know what
something
you
that
mean.
happens very often. And bottled beers are all very well and good, and but there's something about a pint glass. Yeah.
It's the weight in your hand and the connection that makes in your head.
Yeah, and you can, well, as I've proven by drinking half of it in the first 15 minutes of the podcast, you can sort of get more down you in one go from a pint glass, can't you?
Are you feeling a bit left out from last night?
No, I'm not, because I've had quite a lot on one way and another. But I'd have loved to have been there, but I had quite a lot to achieve today, and previous years' experiences have suggested that that's not necessarily compatible with going to the Eat Game Awards. Right, chaps, shall we move on? Leon, what we're going to do now is a section called Whose Bird Is It Anyway? And this is where we ask our listeners to write in with their shooting quandaries and queries and dilemmas, and we do our level best to help them out. This episode's Whose Bird Is It Anyway comes from someone we shall call Pip. And Pip writes, Dear George and Chris, firstly, I just wanted to say I'm a big fan of the podcast and the fantastic range of guests you've been getting on. My shooting quandary goes like this. As the 2024-25 season came to an end, attention turns to booking dates in the diary for 25-26, and with this comes a dilemma I'd appreciate some advice on. Each season, my father and my brother both like to organise a day's shooting for the three of us and a team of mates, beyond the other days that they go on. These 2 days have been the only days I've shot in the last couple of seasons, as I'm not currently in the financial situation to buy a day myself. But I would like to be able to either return an invite to them both next year or find another way of reciprocating the invites. Are there any days you can think of, any alternatives you'd recommend, or any gifts that would work as an option? Or really anything else you can think of as a way of not being the freeloader of the group? Many thanks.
This is a classic quandary and a really tough one to answer, and it's getting harder and harder to answer every year.
It's a bit of a slightly different mix on it, though, a slightly different take on it. And I think the interesting thing here is probably the alternatives to shooting. Because even if you go for some of the things that we nearly always talk about, which are, walked up days and that sort of thing, you're still looking at a fairly substantial outlay.
Is he suggesting then he moves away from shooting, or is he thinking adjacent but value?
Yeah, I mean, Liam, what do you think?
It's always going to be around food, isn't it? I think you could probably cook a nice little meal for your father and your brother to say thank you. And actually, I'm not saying the expense of shooting compared to throwing, some good 12-ounce ribeyes into a pan, some hand-cut chips, or a really good quality shank of venison, slow cooked, or a pan roasted breast of pheasant. Rather than, obviously, I think like Chris is alluding to, it's not just shooting they're looking at maybe here.
What would be most fun is if you could make it sporting related, but so he doesn't need to do it for the mates, right? So his father and his brother organise a day shooting for 3 of them and their mates, and so he's looking to return the invite for the father and the brother, basically have a nice time with dad and brother. That's quite cool. Definitely like cost-effective option. Just do something and just do something to have a nice time together, like Leon's saying. I reckon you could. It depends, obviously. Like, let's go through a bunch of options. You know how some of these cookery school demo days occur. So a twist on. So you do a bit of stalking or a bit of pigeon shooting, and then you do the full works around it with the cookery stuff. They can be quite affordable. I've seen them for like a couple of £100 a head, which is a step up, obviously, but it's a real experience, one that they would remember. And something along those lines would be quite fun.
That's a really good shout. Yeah, I was thinking food related as well. And go to one of the sort of very gamey restaurants. I think that's going to come out at a fairly reasonable cost, whilst being, nothing like as expensive as a peg on a day's shooting for 3 people.
A lad's trip to I'll tell you who won an award last night is a pub that I grew up very near, which is the Bilderston Crown in Suffolk. And they've got rooms there, or they used to. I'm sure they still do. And you could stay there. They won a game award. They do a whole game evening. You could go there for like the 3 of you for a night away. That sort of lads trip. That'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
That'd be nice. Or Kitchen W8.
Yeah.
Mark Kempton won again last night, which I think, Chris, have you eaten it yet?
I don't think I have. Where was the one we went to,
have.
George?
I have.
know you did.
I've been there, and I had the most phenomenal grouse there. It was unbelievably good.
I went really near. Where was the restaurant you and I went to, which was really near there? Is it opposite or next to it? With
we
with
went-
Guy Adams.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of that was.
Another idea for you. How about? I know I've thought of this because I was thinking about this with my dad. Actually, while I've booked it, we are going to take a boat out on Buell Water for a bit of fly fishing, but all day out in the boat. So
Nice.
with some tins basically, and just the day in the boat together, fishing. So so you feel like you're sort of on an expedition rather than just being fishing on the bank. You're therefore sitting next to each other. You can chat the whole time. There's loads of things that go wrong, and therefore there's more fun. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really
Quite fun.
nice.
That's class. I like that.
Shooting related one. Pay for the cartridges on the day when they've
Good
bought your
idea.
day.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think there's lots that you can do. I think the important thing is that it's not about the value, is it? I think this is what you were saying earlier, Chris. It's not so much about the value as
Tying together.
yeah. It's cost versus value, right? It's not the cost, it's the value.
Yeah. Obviously pigeon shooting, but 3 and a hide, a lot of people might have an issue with. But if 2 of you are shooting, 1 of you is at the back, you might get away with it with some people. Well, not 2 of you shooting, but like 2 of you able to shoot 1 at a time. You could do 3 and a hide, especially if you're going somewhere where you're paying for it, like a sort of let day. There's a few of those on Guns on Pegs where it's a bit more expensive, but like they're organized so that they kind of know exactly what's going to happen, and then all the recon's done and all that sort of stuff. So you end up with fairly decent numbers rather than the pigeon shooting I'm used to at home, which is 1 every year if you're lucky.
Chris, I know that your dad listens to these, so don't answer this if you don't want to, but how much is your day on the water at Bure?
Oh, peanuts.
Is it?
75 quid for the boat hire?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so nothing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. That's really good. I think it might be 30 quid on top of that for a ticket, but it's not. I think it's about 75. Yeah, but
So plenty of budget left over to fill the cooler.
well, exactly, and just do whatever. Like take a nice picnic, like really nice stuff. Why not? Yeah.
And what's in your picnic?
I haven't got that far ahead, mate.
Put him on the spot.
I was actually just going to ring you and ask you to send a frozen delivery or something.
He's getting M&S shop bought sandwiches.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, no, you don't leave them in the packet. You put them in a locklock and make it look like you.
Oh,
gonna cut
if
the-
you did that, that's
cut the crusts
unbelievable.
off.
Yes. That's amazing. I peeled some fruit as well. You take all the fruit back. Take that out. Got us a couple of yogurts.
Decanted them into a little thing, little glass ramekin.
That's brilliant.
Secrets of Michelin star chefs.
You have no idea what I've done in the past.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I reckon we've got some pretty decent advice there. Unusually,
I feel
for
like
us.
there's a lot more. There's a lot more we can do for this. I should have been professional and thought a lot longer in advance. Come up with some other good ideas.
We've not been professional about this podcast for getting on towards 100 episodes now, so why change the habit?
Yeah, this is slightly on home turf though, George. This sort of question, like we really should be able to answer this.
Well, I think we've got some really good ideas there.
Yeah, I like the cartridges one. I think that's a real nice touch. Maybe pay the tip you pay the tip rather than.
Yeah, that's another nice one. Yeah.
I don't think they'd value that as much. Experience, like when someone's particularly well off, the thing that they always value is experience, isn't it? It's experience and other things and kind gestures, much rather than anything of any value, like in terms
Money wise, yeah.
money wise. Yeah,
Yeah. It's the thought that counts.
yeah, absolutely. And just
So you're saying that you should go buy bismuth cartridges?
It's the thought that counts. Give them a handshake and thank them and move on.
Right. Speaking of moving on, let's move on, Chris.
So you might recall in the episode, the last one I was on with you, George, and with Tim Weston a few weeks ago, we had correspondence from someone we called Livesey, who wrote in to ask about alcohol-free shoot days, and we had a big old debate about that, which was really interesting. So if you want to have a listen, pop back to that episode with Tim Weston. He's been back in touch though, and it seems there's something of a drama unfolding. So he's written, "Dear chaps, following my unpopular opinion being featured on your show, it came to my brother's attention. He too is a subscriber to the podcast. He was truly gutted that the non-alcohol question had been raised, as it had been his intention to send this in, and was looking forward to joining the most noble order of the Garters. So my dilemma is, as this was a question he posed at the post-shoot dinner, do I deny all knowledge, confess to the plagiarism, and offer him the Garters that my question got me, or confess and keep both Garters and politely tell him he had weeks to send in the aforementioned email, and as I'm the eldest brother, it's the order of things. We do have a family gathering at the end of this month, so your help would be most appreciated." Now, this is where the plot thickens, because that email, all very well, we would debate that as classic, sort of, rescind Garters or not. But Livesey's brother has been in touch, and let's call him Abel. He writes, "Dear gentlemen, my suspicion has finally been confirmed by a mutual friend of the betrayal and plagiarism by somebody very close to me. This is a story of the highest and most noble form of betrayal. Let me set the scene. Myself, two good friends, both men of integrity, and my brother participated in the most enjoyable shooting trip last year, starting in Norfolk at a very well-known shoot. And can I say, splendid day and two extremely enjoyable evenings. One of which, whilst enjoyable but not so memorable, made me think, and to my regret, I shared my thoughts with the rest of the party. With a headache and struggling to live, I stood firm and asked the question, would it be acceptable to have a shoot day without alcohol? You can imagine the response. And that evening, this became the centre of all conversations. But little did we know, the seed of betrayal had been planted. That same week, I invited my brother to load for me, but my love and admiration for him meant I found myself loading for him, and in the spirit of the game, repeatedly congratulated him on some excellent shots. The week's finale was my own home shoot, which I know you, as the jury, would be aware of the conundrum, who are the 8 people I would want to share the day with? Well, my brother is always first on the list. This same brother, who also calls himself captain in his other world, but has never been to Sandhurst or any other military training camp, is only captain of his own ship and sailing to the land of betrayal and plagiarism. It is clear he has committed the sinful crime of plagiarism, but more serious is the crime of betrayal. He is proud of his fame and is already flaunting and boasting of his rewarded garters. To me, this is on par with wearing a military medal without even being on the battlefield. If he is not brought to justice, then his charlatan life will continue. My dilemma, should I ever share a peg with him again and let him sit at my dining table after our home shoot, or should he simply walk the plank? Ouch, he's been done, hasn't he?
Wow.
Yeah, so good. So good.
There's a lot to unpick in there, because it's not just the stealing of the idea. Like, it's the loading, the shooting his peg, Full works. What? This guy's got some nerve, hasn't he?
Self-proclaimed captain.
Yeah, I need to know more about this.
I need to know about that. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this has got something to do with an Instagram handle. I think I know who the captain is. I don't think I know them personally, but I think I'm aware of their existence and their
Oh, really?
their online persona, so to speak.
So not only did he call himself captain, he sort of embedded that by giving himself the Instagram handle.
What I think is so fun about this is that Libsy, or the captain, maybe we'll call him the captain from now on, that the captain knew he'd been rumbled because we received that email first, his confession. So the question I have for you is, does that in any way mitigate what we think about these actions? Or do you think he was just trying to get ahead of the thing, like a politician who knows that there's a story about to come out and decides to break it first?
That's the thing. I don't know how I'm reacting to that. He's panicking and he's thinking, what can I do to minimize the damage? And I think because he's thought that way, I think we should maximize it.
So what you're saying is first garters rescinded and
100%.
given to Abel,
Yeah, but I think we need to do this in some sort of ceremonial manner.
perhaps at the game fair.
Yeah, like hand them over, give them back. In
Sort of being defrocked like a
yes,
priest.
exactly. Beheaded.
Get him to put the garters on and then cut them off.
I quite like it.
We're doing a live pod at the game fair.
Well, we haven't organised it yet, but
There's no
imagine-
surprise there. That doesn't mean we're not doing one.
I imagine we probably will. Well, in fact, come to think of it, me and the other chaps have been doing some maths, and I think our 100th episode will be around about that time. So I think we probably have to.
That's particularly exciting.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
But you know what that means, don't you? It means we're going to give ourselves a problem with some sort of organisation of something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, we'll just
Have
do
you
a
ever heard
thing.
so much excitement?
Well,
Leon's good at organising parties, actually. We should probably just ask Leon to do it.
Hey, that's an event organizer. I'm not an event organizer. I do know one though.
we could do something. We could
Moving on from that, before we set ourselves up for failure, let's assume that we're doing something at the game fair. The captain needs to be at the game fair. Something will occur.
We could have a sort of trial.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant. Who's the judge?
Me.
We'll sort all this out. I think what we'll do is we'll have a chat in the Beehive, one coming Wednesday or Thursday. The Beehive in Vauxhall, which is our local. And Leon, you're welcome to come and join one evening. And we'll sort it all out and we'll come up with a plan. And it's going to end in carnage. That's all that he needs to know.
Good.
Also, for shooting his gun.
That's ruthless, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what I think we need to do? What we do is we ring up someone brutal like Steve Colmer on the Grousemoor, the keeper, and we make this guy beat the first day of the season, unfit.
Wow.
Just here you go. Have a 15-mile walk over the moor, and we'll make him
think
do
about
it
what you've done.
and we'll make him do it in flip-flops or something.
I'd love to see it. I'm actually paid to see that.
And his brother will be in the butt shooting the birds that
Flip-flops and shorts.
Yeah, exactly.
Leon, have you got any advance on this ritual humiliation that Chris is planning?
Do you know, I think Chris has got a bee in his bonnet. Is that the right thing to say? No, I think you've nailed it. I'm still in shock that he's taken... I've invited my brother to load, of which he takes over.
But he's flaunting his garters around that he knows.
Yeah.
He stole
His
the
ill-gotten
idea.
gains.
Yeah.
Has he? And the apology, or say,
Hold on.
go.
No, it's so good. I can't even tell you.
Well, that is great podcasting.
What I'm gonna do, right? Get his address. I want his postal address. I'm gonna send him an invitation to a fictional shoot day, and and invite him to turn up somewhere where he will turn up on the day, and there won't actually be a day taking place, because that would then chuck him right under a bus, and he'd drive a couple of hours, and then that would be, he'd have his comeuppance for that.
Wow, that is vindictive.
Savage. I like it.
We'll make it seem like it's from a mate of his. If you know his Instagram handle, we can probably work out who his mates are, and we can plagiarize.
Oh yeah, I can. If it's the person who I think it is, we can make that happen. Right. So just to be clear, then, Livesey / the captain is having his garters rescinded.
Sorry, I've kind of railroaded that one.
Well, it doesn't matter actually. We'll leave it for the trial. Whether he's in absentia or not, he will be tried at the game fair. It sounds like
That's actually good timing, because that is 2 weeks before the first grouse day. So the trial could, the sentence could literally be what I said, and we could do it.
You could do
At the game fair.
the whole Roman thumbs up or thumbs down for the crowd
Yes.
at the game
Yeah.
fair.
Again, great audio.
Not thought about it.
Right, well, so Pip, Abel, and now you, Leon, are the newest members of the Most Noble Order of the Garters, and will very soon be in receipt of a set of the much-coveted Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters. If you have got a shooting confession, quandary, or query that you'd like us and our guests to help you with, or if you'd like to share an unpopular opinion, a podcast selection, a forgotten drive, a good drive name, any of that stuff, and you'd like a set of garters, drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com. Right, Leon, as we've discussed, last night was the Eat Game Awards. It always strikes me that you should be simply laden with gongs of this nature. Have you ever... Why haven't you got an Eat Game Award yet?
Many different reasons. I work behind the scenes. I was up for a...
Mate, he gives the prizes. He does. He's too big.
No, I work behind the scenes. I'm not. I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to be the best game chef. That's not what this is about, right? I've got a passion, and I absolutely love what I do, and I do it in a different way to everyone else. Maybe they might give me the champion of champions. Who knows?
It'd be a little unfair to put the chef behind the game marketing board up against someone who's just got an Instagram account trying to promote game. That's not a level playing field, is it?
Well, yes. So you said that you're behind the scenes. So can you just explain a bit about what your role with Eat Wild is?
Absolutely, I love it. It's and a lot of people don't realize what we do, but it's about the... I did a video a few months ago, which a lot of you have already seen. It's about connecting the consumers. The consumers are those people who aren't in our industry, so it's outside of the game fair, and there are millions of them, and they have no clue about wild meat, and it's trying to educate them and get them all on board, and it's a really, really tough gig. But and I say it's tough because we've got quite a few things that are, how do we put, debatable in our industry, and they come up quite a lot, and it actually hinders and harms the value of the good that we want to do. So what I do is, I've been a chef 25 years, worked at some incredible places, some phenomenal hotels of the year, highly decorated hotels, we would call them, with Michelin and AA rosettes and whatever else you want to, Red Star hotels and all of that. And I came out of that into food service about 9 years ago when I had my first child and decided I don't want to be a chef anymore in the kitchens for the hours. So, and I managed to build up a really big group of, like, I work with some great chefs, so they all still talk to me. I don't know why, but they all still do. And I use those contacts to sort of food sales. So sell bits that I'm working with. So what I do for Eat Wild is talk to these guys, educate them. Chefs, we are fickle creatures. I like to call us creatures because we are a bit backwards. We love we love provenance. We love stories. We love to see product in the wild. We love to see all our things grow. We like to nurture all that type of stuff. And what better than wild meat that we have here in the British countryside? Venison, pheasant, partridge, mallard, all incredible stuff. And chefs love it, but they don't really understand it. And all they see is all the negativity that comes from the wild justices and things online. So what I need to do is, first and foremost, at Eat Wild, educate the chefs, get them to understand what the shooting community brings to the British countryside. That is key, absolutely, first and foremost. And then second is show them the product of which they already know and can use, and they've already fallen in love with, but to reconnect with them and get them to understand. And once you put those two together, it's a bit of a no-brainer, and we start to see some really cool big wins that Eat Wild are working and doing and putting together. So I'm a facilitator.
It's really interesting that, because you'd think that chefs would know a lot about game, because right from the start of a sort of chef's journey, you're looking at food provenance and things like that. But I imagine you get a really mixed reaction across the piece when you're doing all your Eat Wild work, trying to get game into football stadiums or NHS, stuff like this. What are the sort of mixes of reactions that you do get? I mean, how much persuasion is it?
It's a lot of persuasion. You got to look at, so like you alluded to before, I was a part of the BGA when it first started, and I was full-time. And
BGA being British Game
Assurance, or Game Alliance, when that was, when it first started, so that's 5 years ago. And it takes time, and there's a lot of, like you're saying, people don't know the true ins and outs, or to say chefs don't know the true ins and outs of their food. They see a story and they'll pick it up and they'll run with it, but it's showing them the reality. We've got assurance schemes for all food, Soil Association, Red Tractor, we have MSC for fish, the list goes on. And that negates any chef really having to think about provenance like it used to be. I think in the top end restaurants, top end, like Mark's at Kitchen WA, Josh Hunter at Holland and Holland, your Vineyards, Le Manoirs, those places are full of chefs who are so engrossed in their food, they know about provenance from the off. But there are millions of other places that are, like you've just said, NHS, schools, hospitals, football stadia. Those chefs are really, really good, but they don't actually get the time and to get to work with the quality ingredients that Michelin guys do. So they're the ones that are struggling. NHS, they knock out some amazing chefs now. They've really stepped up their games since their NHS food review, which was put into place a few years ago. But it's education, and there really is a mixed world. Not every chef can cook to a certain level. So it's educating those chefs is what we're trying to do, because the Michelin boys know about game.
So presumably, though, when you turn up and they're used to the people that you just mentioned, and all this labeling and all this provenance, like being accredited and safe, and they can put that in their small print and all their documents and procedures that they have to do to cover their backs. They look at you and go, "Where's this from and what's in it?" And you go, "Not really sure, not really sure." I mean, that's basically the problem with game, right? So how on earth are you even getting a foot in the door with that?
So we've got some really, so the last 5 years, like you said, has dramatically changed the wild meat market. We've got a new processor. We've got a new processor, the first one in the last 40 years open up. That's thrown nearly £2 million at being not just a new processor, but driving the market into becoming the 21st century, and really thinking about the quality there. But as well as that, there are so many things that we're doing Eat Wild as well, to help people, or help the chefs really understand the market.
It was interesting talking. You talking about the, as it were, the, I don't want to call them lower echelons, but you've obviously got the Michelin star, the Michelin type boys. But what I notice in the food world is that there are trends, and that a particular way of cooking or a particular ingredient or whatever will suddenly become, sorry for the pun, flavor of the month, and then it's everywhere. So, for example, I think a classic example is pulled pork, right? Nobody knew what pulled pork was 10 years ago, and now you can't move for the stuff, and it's everywhere. Smash burgers, nobody knew what a smash burger was.
Right, yeah.
So do you think that there could be this moment where somebody does something epic with game and everybody's like, oh shit, that's the trend we need to jump on?
Well, George and Chris Horn at, I don't know what time is it, 5 to 5 on the 21st of March. I'm telling you now that I'm going to call it, game will have its chance. It will have its chance and it will happen. It's just when that happens. And there are a lot of things that we need to do first from an industry point of view to make that big bang moment that we've just been talking about.
I completely agree with you on that, by the way. And there's a lot of stuff which constantly deflates us about all the things that we were just talking to about assurance and also how it's shot and all that sort of stuff. But fundamentally, the core of the product, the meat, is got everything going for it. It's as wild as you want when it comes to actually sort of, meat that you can really realistically put on a menu in a sort of sustainable manner in terms of cost and all that sort of stuff. And it's got every single opportunity. I mean, definitely starting with venison, that's the foot in the door. And then all the other types to go with it. Because fundamentally, the world isn't going to turn vegan tomorrow. Like 96% of the UK still eats meat. So this is just such an open door if you can get it right. But there are problems. And you're at the coalface of those problems, trying to make it more accessible. And if only we were able to join up the thinking a bit more and have people caring a lot more about the end product, we'd have a fighting chance. But that seems to be where the issue is.
You've nailed it. That's exactly it. I couldn't say it any better myself. But I want to talk about cost very quickly to your listeners, because this is the shooting community, right? They have an idea in their head and they understand. How much do you think venison is? Let's talk about loin. Let's talk about the expensive bit, the backstrap. George, how much do you think that you should pay for venison loin in the market today? You're a bog standard
Like
Joe.
wholesale price or
No.
retail?
You're retail. You're a bog standard Joe. I'll talk about wholesale as well. But you're a bog standard Joe walking into the butcher shop and you say, "Can I have 200 grams of venison loin?"
Do you know what? I see it in the butcher quite often, and I'm always quite surprised by how expensive it is.
There you go.
I'm trying to think, like, it's probably, what is it? Maybe 75% the cost of the equivalent piece of beef, something like that, maybe even more than that.
You are pretty bang on with that. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So if I went into central London now, and I'm not calling them out. Great butcher, phenomenal butcher. Please do go by there. Their food is unbelievable. Their meat is amazing. H.G. Walter, they have their venison fillets on for, I think it's 69 or £70 a kilo.
Wow. So an equivalent, so a fillet steak would be not far off that. I mean, it depends on.
It's probably, yeah.
It'd be less than that, wouldn't it?
No, it'd be less than 70 quid. It's that's a kilo weight. So you're probably looking at it'll probably cost you like 12, 13, 14, maybe a bit more, depending on what size what size your meat is. What size is your meat? Okay, here we go. So I'm looking at it now just because I need to prove 500 grams. Oh, actually, they've dropped a little bit in price. No, 1 kilo, 58.95 a kilo.
Yeah. it's a fair old whack, isn't it?
It's a fair old whack. And this is, so a lot of people are kind of, in our industry, birds are free. Birds are cheap. Venison's cheap. Birds are free. They don't understand the cost implications when it comes to game. And or wild meat, I should be saying, but the cost implications and ramifications are huge. So what these NHS is, the football stadiums and all of that, is they are struggling to put it on their menus because the price is so high anyway. So our job at Eat Wild is to introduce them to game processors by direct. The price is much lower. If you're going to, you got to think about it. No butcher can process a game bird. It has to be done through an AGHE. So that's a cost. What happens is the butcher will order his birds through the processor. And I don't know whether I should laugh
Listeners,
or...
Leon's lost it because Chris's high-tech soundproofing system has just fallen on his head. Would you
And
like
he
to
styled
stand
it out
up
really well.
I didn't even move.
He did not move. He styled it out. Where were we?
You
I'll
sort
finish it
yourself out,
quickly.
and you were talking about game processing and costs involved.
Yeah, the cost. The game processor is then giving those birds to the butcher, and the butcher's then selling them on. Of course, he's going to put a margin on it. Well, there's no point in it being in business if you're not putting a margin on it. So
and
yeah.
just so like let's take deer, right?
Yeah.
Presumably because it is a smaller animal than a cow, the equivalent costs, that you're processing it in the same way, but you get less product at the end. So it takes broadly the same amount of time or money to process it, but you get less product at the end. So the cost is comparatively more. Is that right?
No, it's probably quicker to process it than it is the side. I mean, have you ever seen a side of beef?
They're big old things, yeah.
Mate, it's some sight to be seen that. Your biggest stag's probably what, 200 kilo. By the time you strip that down, I mean, I don't know. I was going to say a hind quarter of a beef's much bigger than that. So no, I think the cost is seen as that everyone outside of our industry sees it as a premium product, so it's going to be charged as a premium product. What we need to be doing, and was what Eat Wild is doing, is, and I say it, but everyone knows it, innovation. Innovation is a sausage. We've, in our industry, again, community of the shooting kind, we've seen the sausages, we've seen the burgers, we do them ourselves. However, outside of us, forget us, they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Look at Louisa and Sarah last year at Carfest. What's game? What game are we playing?
Yeah.
What's a venison? What's a deer? People really need educating, and that's what we do, and we do it well from a food point of view. I mean, look, we've talked about past wins. A lot of people in our community see the wins, but they also need to see what work and effort goes in behind it, and that's Eat Wild.
What's the appetite like from the big retailers at the moment?
I'll be honest, I said it to you yesterday. I have never been so excited. 2025 is like a really exciting year to be in our sector because the appetite's there. I can talk about it now, which is amazing. So we're working with Delaware North, who are, I want to say, the third biggest contract caterer here in the UK. And I talk about contract catering. They look after Wembley Stadium, Arsenal Stadium, London Stadium, which is West Ham, and Derby Stadium. And they, obviously, all of these contract caterers are trying to reduce plastic, become more sustainable, carbon footprint, all of that. They got the big sustainability goals for 2020, 30 to hit. And Delaware, from the top, from their MD down, are really stepping up the pace of making sure that they are and become a really sustainable company. So what I do with them is we're going around game processing. We're taking them around game processors, get them to show all game processors that we work with, and they get a feel of which one they want to use. So we're non-biased. We use everyone. They're going to have a wander round, and then we'll talk to them about the sustainability of what we do. I mean, look at the stats that come out in the recent Value of Shooting report, and in what the GWCT do, which is amazing work. I will add that they give all that evidence and stats that all stack towards building the flora and fauna of the British countryside. All comes from shooting, and
Yeah.
it's incredible. Do you know that £800 million of the 3.3 billion that the shooting industry has is in hospitality? £800 million is hospitality. So anyone who has a hospitality business needs to give their good old self a talking to in the mirror and support shooting, because that's a lot of money to stretch throughout the breadth of the UK. And you're talking about hotels, restaurants, the list goes on. So
these guys are up for taking game in its current form.
With a few stipulations I didn't really want to talk about, but
Oh, good. Go on. Just people need to be aware. What are they?
the lead debate.
Right.
So
they don't want lead shot game.
They cannot. It's not. They don't want it. They can't have it.
Right, fine.
Think of the lawsuits and litigation and everything else. We're talking about an industry that we know we've eaten lead. I've had someone the other day tell me I've had lead 50 years and I'm fine. Great. I've had lead too. But the long and short of it is, Charlie, and I don't, try not to offend anyone, but Charlie is taking his son to watch Arsenal at the weekend. He doesn't need his 9-year-old son biting into a burger and finding a piece of lead.
But he's going to find a piece of any sort of shot, right?
Well, no. Well, yes, I get what you're saying, but no. From the conversations I've had, we can metal detect steel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that it's right or wrong, and I said this the other day. As long as we can metal detect the object that we are shooting them with, and steel looks like a viable way, then we can remove that steel or metal detect it out of the bird. A lot of people don't realize that when you process a bird, the bird itself gets put onto the machine, and it's I call it the upside down Hoover. And some people waxed it, some people Hoover, and you suck the feathers off. All that handling of the bird pretty much rattles most of the shot out of the bird. It's when you breast birds out that you find more shot in processed birds.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's really small things that a lot of people in our industry don't understand. They like to think they know, and they speak to their game dealers, but I've been doing this for a long time and working with it. I'm not saying all the shot falls out. Most of it falls out. You're then left with an oven ready, which is your whole bird with no feathers on it, of which we can then process. We can break that down. We can turn it into diced, minced, whatever it is, and use the product as it should be. Then which we can put through a metal detector. Once it's metal detected, steel, iron, I want to say copper, are the three alloys that are the best at going through metal detectors. We've then got a viable product that we can innovate with, and almost pretty much, I'd say, guarantee is shot free. That just stops a lot of these problems and issues.
So is the issues the shot, not the metal itself, as in not the fact that it's lead?
No, lead is always going to be a problem. It's lead. Do you want me to come down and no?
I'm just checking what the feedback is. I mean, I'm aware of the argument, and so you can't get lead shot game through to this lot. Lead's being banned in Europe. It's just been banned in Europe. And so we've got a finite amount of time to ship over to Europe. And then basically after that point, the rest has got to be consumed ourselves, of which 85% is not at the moment.
Yeah, well, yeah, the figures that everyone always talks about, the game dealers game processors that are exporting 85% of their birds. Do I believe all of those birds will be left here in the UK? Not in the long run. I think we will bring a European market, will always be there, because the Europeans eat a lot of wild meat. And I don't think they'll ever get enough from themselves, so it will always be imported. But do I think? And I
Will
don't.
but will we actually be allowed to import lead shot game under the EU laws? You won't get a license.
No,
surely?
you won't get a license to. It's lead shot. Absolutely. So what will happen is we'll probably end up with a period of time where we won't be able to export anything until there's some clarity. But this will be the best bit because I've got a bit of knowledge on import export with some other items as well. The paperwork will be so badly put together. People will think they've done all the ticking and the boxes, and it will just stop, and they'll ship it back to sender because they won't have ticked the right box. And that, I think that confusion and I think that can go on, and I think it would go on for an amount of time that is unfathomable for the industry, and we don't want it during the shoot season.
Yeah.
So have you got enough steel shot game to supply all these people that
No.
you're getting these awesome deals with?
Absolutely not. No. And it's
That's a big problem.
Yeah, it's a big problem. Yeah.
So the irony is we haven't got enough shot game.
The irony is we've not got a shot. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, bang on. It baffles me still.
It's just ridiculous.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can't hammer that home hard enough, right? But
It's just got one big mirror in front of the shooting industry, isn't it? We've honestly got ourselves to blame. We just got to crack on. Like this whole argument, I'm going to stockpile lead when it gets banned. I mean, honestly, it's just short-sighted bollocks.
But Leon, I'm interested in so when you're working with these, the Stadia, these kind of people, and these are chefs who are not necessarily all that familiar with gaming. You're talking about the innovation and the sausages. So what kind of products are you putting in? Are you helping them to develop recipes or
Can I talk about? Can I? Yeah. So actually, I will talk about one of these products. I'm buzzing about this one. I've just developed a hot dog, like a proper. Do you know, like the jar, not jar quality,
like
it's
sort of
better than
Frankfurter
jar quality.
thing?
The Frankfurter hot dog, but it's a wild meat hot dog, and we all tried it the other day. I say we, the client, who is a football stadia, and they were like, this is incredible. And it's more sustainable than our current hot dog. And I was like, yep. And they were like,
and the standards, the welfare standards behind that as well versus the thing
and
they're
I
currently
imagine the
selling.
bits of the animal as well.
yeah.
It's not, your standard hot dog is lips and arseholes, isn't it?
Well, if it came from a pig in the first place,
Exactly.
and then if it did come from a pig, it definitely came from Denmark, not Britain.
And I was like, they all kind of like, they were like, well, we can't call it they were sort of really worried about naming the meat that was in it. And I went, call it a wild dog. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, just call it a wild dog and go nuts with it. Put jalapenos over it, really like spicy chili, do whatever, just call it a wild dog. And, and they sort of sat there and thought, and they were like, yes.
That is a great name.
Yes.
But when you say worried about the meat, the thing's got dog in the title. How have we got away with this for so long? How is everyone like, yeah, hot dog, I'll just have a hot dog, that meat. And no one's questioned, is it dog meat? No, it's a hot dog, obviously. Like, what? How has that gone around for that long?
It's mad, right? It's mad. But so the way I do things, it's been really good. Like I said, I'm excited for 2025, and I've had a couple of phone calls, and they'll say, Leon, come down and see us and put a presentation. And I'll take a few products. So, my other business I work with is Pivotal, which we sell. I put a game terrine in there. We've done 1.8 tons of game terrine in 12 months now.
That is a ton is a lot.
Yeah. 1.8 tons.
That's a big side plate. That can you imagine?
So, and that went into those terrines went into stadia up and down the country. I can't mention the stadiums because they're with a different contract caterer, and they don't want to be mentioned yet. And that's a yet. But they've gone up and down all year, and it's been incredible. And that's because I get to work that kind of side hustle. This is my day job, but by the way, guys, I work for a sustainable food business. That's what we've got to look at it, right? We're a sustainable food business. And then I start showing them these products, like the hot dogs, like the terrines. Pies have become a market leader at the moment. You know, everyone's been doing pies for years, and the shooting industry knows, oh, well, I've had game pie for years. Yes, but stadiums haven't. NHS haven't. Schools haven't. So they've had chicken, pork, lamb, and beef pies for probably the last 100 years or whatever. And we're changing the narrative to have a look. Come and look at this. You know, I'm working on a pheasant, wild mushroom, and tarragon white wine pie.
Ooh.
For a stadium group, and they were just like, this is really good. Now here we have a problem. The problem I have is obviously it's shot with lead. I need to remove the lead. We can't at the moment. So we've got the principles, we've done the tastings, but I can't guarantee it lead free. I can't guarantee it shot free is also what I'm sort of saying here as well. So the switch to steel, the metal detecting, then being able to have a pile of meat, a pile of pheasant meat, partridge meat, whatever it may be, that has no metal in it whatsoever or any shot in it, it now becomes a viable source to put out there to be used on a mass scale.
Nice. Hey, we trailed it at the start. Moving on, the game fair. You said some things to me last night that I was like, I don't know if you were allowed to repeat any of this yet, but
we've got some cool lineups happening. I'm pulling in ringers left, right, and center who are all like, I'll come to the game fair and cook with you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool. That's one Michelin star right there. I've got another one who's working at a 2-star, and he's like, yeah, I'll come and work. And I'm like, okay, that's 3.
So this is on the barbecue on the Guns on Peg stand.
Yeah.
Is the Guns on Peg stand going to become the most Michelin starred restaurant in the country for that weekend?
I think what it is, last year, I don't know if you know, you remember someone put a video of us on, someone fed me a canapé and had a beer in my hand. It was my most ever liked Instagram post. Well, it wasn't even a post, it was a story from someone else. And I reposted it, and everyone just kept messaging going, is that all you do? Drink and eat meat? And I was like, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. So I've now got like these chefs going, yeah, mate, if you want to add me to that lineup, I'm keen to come down for the weekend. I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem at all.
This is quite funny considering we're just launching Scribe Pound Food.
Yeah,
the number of people that we're talking to at the moment about food. That I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to be there in the corner just with a drink, chilling out, eating your food. Thank you.
It's not just mine. I think there'll be quite a few people there. So it should be fun. It should be real fun. I'm excited by it, actually.
Yeah.
Well, so watch this space for Guns on Pegs podcast plans for the game fair. We'll at some point find some time to work out what the hell we're going to do, but we'll almost certainly be there recording an episode. And if you needed any more encouragement, then the prospect of all these Michelin starred chefs cooking up game on a Guns on Peg stand should be enough. I've got one last question before we go to Desert Island shooting, which is the sun has been shining here in Hampshire, and my barbecue tong hand is itchy. Can you suggest? Well, I was going to say everyone's got to get a freezer full of game. Obviously, I don't. But can you suggest like one super simple pheasanty recipe for the barbecue for this summer?
Oh, super simple. No messing around. What do I normally do? I have to keep going. I've got a bit of a thing for curry. It's always been mentioned every time we talk about it. But I've got so at the moment I breast birds out, and my daughter loves it, by the way. It's like one of her favorite things. Like, ask me to go to school with coronation pheasant sandwiches. That is her like go to. Dad, can I have a coronation pheasant sandwich today? And I'm like, I haven't lifted any pheasant out of the freezer. I'll do one tomorrow. So that's like the in thing at the moment. But on the barbecue is pheasant breasts, thighs, whatever it may be, into a little poly bag, curry powder, let it marinate, bit of yogurt, straight over the barbie, and then obviously big squeeze of lime, coriander, some herbs all over it, yogurt, sort of rahitiri, cucumber onto a flatbread with some mango chutney, pomegranate, flaked almonds, like, that is, and homemade flatbread. That's such a, everyone buys flatbreads, like, rattles me. It's just literally flour and yogurt with a bit of olive oil mixed together into a paste, and then roll it out and whack it on your barbie. It's incredible.
Oh,
That's a
dreamy.
good one.
That's a great shout. I must say, that's the bag, the curry powder, the yogurt, absolute winner. Did that last summer quite a bit, and it's such a crowd pleaser.
It's just
Good,
so
good suggestion.
So good.
Yeah. Well, Leon, the way that I think you know that we finish these pods is with our desert island shooting segment, and the scenario is this: the extinction level event asteroid hits tomorrow. However, your affairs are in order, your loved ones and enemies reconciled, dogs fed, tomatoes watered. Your last day shooting begins how?
Wow. I've got time machines, helicopters, the whole lot, haven't I?
You have.
Full plethora. I've listened to a lot of these, and everyone's really got some amazing stories. Mine's not really that amazing, but the one thing I really want to do, like really, really want to do, is shoot with my grandfather. He passed 9 years ago, and prior to him passing, probably not in the greatest health for sort of 10 years, which we're now going back to 19 years. And I never really got the chance. My first memory of shooting is stood. A lot of people don't realise I'm born in Wales, born and bred, Wrexham, grew up on Anglesey, went to school there, and we were in a house, Stable Wen, just up from Bededen in Anglesey, and six or seven, I think I was about 6, and there's a faded photo somewhere in my mother's box, and it's me in the middle of a field, flat cap on, my granddad's gilet on, watching the birds fly over, and him stood with the gamekeeper, and we spoke the whole day. And it's probably like my favorite memory of him, and I've never had the chance to shoot with him. So to go back in time, shoot with him, have a whiskey, chew the fat, and have a really good quality home cooked meal by my nan at the end of the day would be absolutely ideal. I don't need
That's
much
so
more in
lovely.
my life than that.
Would
Omega.
you want to go back to that same shoot where the photo was taken?
I've thought about it. I've been very lucky over the last few years to shoot some incredible places, and one of your previous guests gave me an opportunity. Mr. Osborne allowed me to go up to Foynes with Johnny Carter and Tom Peachy, Nadia, someone else, and Andrew Kati. It was like 2 years ago, and genuinely the most stunning place I've ever woken up. And I've woken up in some states and some amazing places in my life, but that was one of them.
I've seen Johnny's film from that weekend. It looked like a lot of fun.
It was unbelievable, amazing duck flight. Like a genuinely probably the best duck flight I've ever had. All angles from everywhere, unbelievable birds, some unbelievable shooting. So yeah, happily probably there in Foynes with my granddad. In fact, actually, talking about it, I will give him the same experience, that duck flight with him next to me, and then a bit of a walked up across the Foynes estate with him, and sit down for a meal and chill out. That's
Proper
it.
job.
Yeah, that's
Really
it.
lovely.
Nice. Good thinking, Leon.
That's good thinking. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate
Lovely,
it.
lovely. Well done. Well, look, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Been really enjoyable having you on.
Thank you for having me. Great podcast, love it. And obviously we spend a lot of time outside of this podcast sometimes together as well at game fairs or whatever. So it's
looking forward to it.
We'll see you there this summer. And having said such nice things about the podcast, you can come on again.
Smoke for smoke.
So before we go, all that remains for me to say is that there is a final reminder. You can get your hands on a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters by sending us your shooting dilemmas for us to resolve, or by sharing your unpopular opinions or your forgotten drives or your podcast itineraries. Just drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we read it out in the next episode or any future episodes, we will send you some garters. I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. Chris is going skiing, and he'll be back in about a month. He's not skiing for a month, but he will be back on the podcast in a month. But until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.